December 1st, 2014, from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It was Monday Night Football between the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets as these two AFC East rivals went at it. The Dolphins won the toss. They elected to defer, and so the Jets would get the ball first. They would start off on their own 19, and on 2nd and 3 from the 26, Curley ended up on an end around, picking up 18 yards in the first down at the 44 for the Jets. Then on 2nd and 3 from the 49 of Miami, Ivory ran for 6 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the Miami 43. Their drive would stall on the 42 as they would bring out the punting unit. And so now the Dolphins would get the ball for the first time in this game. They had it on their own 13, but they would go 3 and out as the Jets defense held them, and they punted it from their own 21. So now the Jets would get the ball back. They had it on their own 15 with a little less than 11 minutes left in the first. And on 3rd and 7 from the 18, Geno Smith hit Powell. He picked up 9 yards in the first down on the 27. Then on 2nd and 4 from the 33, Chris Johnson ran for 47 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the Miami 20. Salas then ran on an end around for 20 yards in the touchdown that made it New York 7, Miami 0. So the Jets got on the scoreboard first. So now the Dolphins would take over on their own 18 with a little less than 8 minutes on the clock in the first. They would bring the ball to midfield and into New York territory. They were faced with a 3rd and 8 from the 46, and Tannehill went to Landry, picked up 14 yards and the first down on the New York 32. Tannehill then ran for 10 yards. It was now first down on the 22. Tannehill was then sacked by Ellis for an 8-yard loss and was now 2nd and 18 on the 30. They would end up picking up 5 yards on a pass to Landry, but then on 4th down, out would come Caleb Sturgis to attempt a 43-yard field goal. It was up and it was no good. So the score remained New York 7, Miami 0. So now the Jets would get the ball with less than 2 minutes left in the first. They had on their own 34, and on 2nd and 8 from the 36, Chris Johnson ran for 14 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 50. Percy Harvin then ran for 9 yards, and on 2nd and 1 from the 41, Chris Johnson lost 2 yards as the first quarter came to a close. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was New York 7, Miami 0. So now the Jets started off the second quarter with the ball on the Miami 43. It was 3rd and 3, and Powell ran for 5 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the Miami 38. Chris Johnson then ran for 10 yards in the first down at the 28. And on 3rd and 3, Powell lost a yard. So now out would come Nick Folk to attempt a 40-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Jets were now up by 10 with the score New York 10, Miami 0. So now the Dolphins got the ball with less than 12 minutes left before halftime. They had on their own 23, but they would go 3 and out and punt the ball from the 31. So now the Jets would take over, backed up against their own end zone at the 6-yard line. There's about 10.5 minutes left on the clock in the second quarter. Ivory picked up 8 yards on first down, but then got stopped for no gain on 2nd down, and on 3rd and 2 from the 14, Geno Smith went to Percy Harvin. He picked up 6 yards in the first down on the New York 20. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 29, Percy Harvin picked up 3 yards in the first down on the 32, and on 2nd and 9 from the 33, Curley picked up 20 yards on an end around. It was now a first down in Miami territory on the 47. Then on 2nd and 9 from the 46, Ivory picked up 11 yards in the first down on the Miami 35. Their drive would stall on the 30, and out would come Nick Folk to attempt a 48-yard field goal. It was up and it was no good. So it remained New York 10, Miami 0. So now the Dolphins would get the ball on their own 38 with about 3.5 minutes left before halftime. They ended up faced with a 3rd and 6 from the 42. Tannehill went to Landry, picked up 8 yards in the first down at the 50. Then on 3rd and 5 from the 45, Tannehill went to Sims. He picked up 20 yards and a first down on the New York 25. The Dolphins took their first time out. Tannehill was then sacked for a 10-yard loss by Harris, and the Dolphins took their second time out. They ended up with a penalty. Actually, they picked up 7 yards on 2nd and 20. And then on 3rd and 13, Tannehill went to Landry, picked up 3 yards, and the Dolphins took their last timeout with just seconds on the clock. New York tried to ice the kicker with the timeout as well. And on 4th down from the 25, Caleb Sturgis came out to attempt a 43-yard field goal. It was up and it was good. And the Dolphins put their first points on the scoreboard on the final play of the first half. So now going into halftime, the score was New York 10, Miami 3. So coming out of the locker rooms, the Dolphins trailed by 7. They had the ball first to start things off in the second half. They had it on their own 25. Miller picked up 9 yards and brought the ball to the 34. But then a penalty, a false start, brought it back to the 29. And on 2nd and 6, Miller then ran for 13 yards and a first down at the Miami 42. Tannehill then went to Gibson. He picked up 14 yards on the pass that brought the ball across midfield to the New York 44. Then on 2nd and 13 from the 47, a penalty against the defense. Pass interference made a first down on the 30. Their drive would stall on 26, and out would come Caleb Sturgis to attempt a 44-yard field goal. It was up, and it was good. It was now a 4-point game with the score New York 10, Miami 6. So now the Jets would get the ball on their own 40 with about 11 minutes left in the third. And on 3rd and 5 from the 45, Geno Smith went to Sudfeld. He picked up 20 yards in the first down on the Miami 35. They would end up stalling, though, on the 27, and out would come Nick Folk to attempt a 45-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Jets extended their lead to 7. So now the score was New York 13, Miami 6. So now Miami had the ball with about 7 minutes left in the quarter. They had it on their own 22, but they would end up going 3 and out and punting from the 25. So now the Jets would get the ball with about 5.5 on the clock in the third. They had it on their own 30, but they would punt it from the 35 as they would also go 3 and out. So Miami had the ball with about 4.5 minutes on the clock. It was 1st and 10 on the New York 41, and Ryan Tannehill was intercepted. It was a crazy interception, actually, as the pass ended up, it was to Lamar Miller, and Miller tried to catch it. Like, Tannehill was under pressure. Someone had his ankle. He was going down. He threw it. Miller then went to catch the pass, and in his attempt to catch it, he ended up tossed, like, kind of the ball bounced, but kind of like he pushed it up into the air, and it went up into the air, and it ended up being intercepted by Wallace as he made a heads-up play. He intercepted the ball, and he ran it 25 yards before being tackled. So now it's the Jets' ball on the Miami 30 with about 4 minutes left in the third. But the Jets end up going 3 and out as Geno Smith was sacked on 3rd and 10 from the 30. He was sacked by Cameron Wake for an 8-yard loss, and now would come the punting unit. So now the Dolphins would get the ball on their own 9-yard line with about 2 minutes left in the third, and Ryan Tannehill went to Mike Wallace. He picked up 19 yards in the first down on the 28. Lamar Miller then ran for 12 yards in the first down to the 40. And on 2nd and 5 from the 45, Tannehill went to Hoskins, but it was for no gain as the third quarter came to a close with the score New York 13, Miami 6. So now on 3rd and 5 from the 45 was the situation for the Dolphins as they opened up the fourth quarter, and an incomplete pass would bring out the punting unit. There ended up being a holding penalty against the Dolphins. So now the Jets would end up with the ball, but they had it on their own 5-yard line, backed up against their own end zone with just a few seconds off the clock in the fourth. They went 3 and out, and it ended up punting it back to the Dolphins as that was becoming somewhat of a motif here in this stretch. So now the Dolphins had the ball with 13 minutes left in the fourth. They had it on the New York 39 after the punt. So there was a defensive holding penalty against the Jets. So now on first down, Tannehill went to Landry. Landry picked up 25 yards in the first down. They brought the ball to the red zone for the Dolphins on the New York 14. Then on 3rd and 2 from the 6, Lamar Miller picked up the first down as it was now 1st and goal on the New York 4. An incomplete pass would make it 2nd and goal from the 4, and Lamar Miller punched it in from 4 yards out as he got the touchdown that tied this game up at 13 apiece. So now the Jets would take over with about 10 minutes left in the fourth. They had it on their own 39. Geno Smith ended up picking up 13 yards on first down. Cameron Wake was injured on the play, and it was now a first down for the Jets on the Miami 48. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 39, Chris Ivory picked up 4 yards in the first down at the Miami 35. Chris Johnson then ran for 13 yards in the first down on the Miami 22. They ended up being faced with a 3rd and 7. Geno Smith out of the shotgun ended up getting sacked by Missy as it was an 8-yard loss, and out would come the field goal unit as Nick Folk came out to attempt a 45-yard field goal, and it was up and it was no good. Wide left. So this game remained tied at 13 apiece. So now the Dolphins got the ball on their own 35 with less than 6 minutes left on the clock. They were faced with a 2nd and 2 from the 43, and Lamar Miller picked up 3 yards, and there was a defensive offsides. So now it was a 1st and 10 on the 48. Tannehill then went to Sims for an 18-yard reception, and that brought the ball across midfield into the New York 34. So now they'd be faced with a 3rd and 7 from the 31, and Ryan Tannehill went back to Sims. He picked up 17 13 yards in the first down in the red zone on the New York 14. Miller then lost 2 yards. Now on 2nd and 12 from the 16, Tannehill went to Miller and he picked up 5, and it was now 3rd and 7 from the 11 as the Jets took their first timeout right before the 2-minute warning. So now on 3rd and 7 from the 11, Ryan Tannehill went to Gibson. He picked up 3 yards, and now the game went to the 2-minute warning. And coming out of the 2-minute warning, it was 4th and 4 on the New York 8. They elected to go for the field goal. Caleb Sturgis came out to attempt the 26-yarder. It was up. It was good. And the Dolphins take the lead in this game for the first time with the score now Miami 16, New York 13. So the Dolphins trailed all game, and they finally took the lead. They had tied it up, but they took the lead for the first time right at the 2-minute warning in the game. So now the Jets got the ball on their own 20 with less than 2 minutes on the clock. They were faced with a 2nd and 9 from the 21. Geno Smith then went to Powell. He picked up 10 yards in the first down on the New York 31. They would then be faced with a 3rd and 8 on the 33, and Geno Smith went to Eric Decker. Eric Decker picked up 11 yards in the first down at the New York 44. Now on first down, Geno Smith out of the no-huddle in the shotgun with a little over 30 seconds on the clock. Went to Cumberland, but it was intercepted by Jones. And the Dolphins took over, and all that was left to do for Miami was take a knee as they win this game against their division rivals with the final score, Miami 16, New York 13. And with the victory, the Dolphins are now 7-5 on the season. They're 4-3 on the road. And with this victory, they now take the 6th seed at the moment in the playoff picture, as they have the tiebreaker over 6. Well, it's 6 total teams that are 7-5. There's 5 other teams. There's the Chiefs and a few others. There's the Steelers, Browns, Ravens. I might have missed one, but they are the 6th seed at the moment. They have the tiebreakers at 7-5. So if it ended today, which it doesn't, but they would be in. So at the moment, the Dolphins are holding on to that last spot, and the Jets, with the loss, are 2-10 on the season, 2-5 at home. And in this game, Ryan Tannehill was 25-35 with 235 passing yards and an interception. He had 13 yards rushing off of 4 carries. Geno Smith was 7 for 13 with 65 yards passing and an interception. He also had 19 yards on the ground off of 4 carries. The leading rusher in this game was Chris Johnson. He had 17 carries for 105 yards. Chris Ivory had 16 carries for 62 yards. Lamar Miller was the leading rusher for the Dolphins. He had 13 carries for 56 yards. He also had 11 yards off of 2 receptions. And the leading receiver in this game was Mike Wallace. He had 6 receptions for 69 yards. And Jarvis Landry had 8 receptions for 68 yards. And Dion Sims had 4 receptions for 58 yards. And the leading receiver for the Jets was actually Zach Sudfeld with 1 reception for 20 yards. And on defense, the leading tackler in this game was Jelani Jenkins. He had 16 tackles. 2 were for losses. The leading tackler for the Jets was David Harris. He had 11 tackles. Over on the Dolphins side, Kyle Missy had 13 tackles, and Rashad Jones had 11 tackles. Missy also had a sack as well. That was one of 2 sacks for the Dolphins. The other sack was Cameron Wake. And the interception for the Dolphins was actually also by Rashad Jones. And the interception for the Jets was Darren Walls. They also had 2 sacks as well. David Harris, who was their leading tackler, had a sack. And Kendrick Ellis also had a sack for the Jets. So an amazing game. The Jets jumped out to a 10-point lead. The Dolphins fought back. They tied the game, and they win with a field goal at the 2-minute warning to take the lead for the first time all night on Monday Night Football in a game that a lot of people thought maybe would be an easy one, but it's never easy when 2 division rivals go at it, especially when Miami has to travel to cold weather, and it was definitely cold there in New York. But the final score, Miami 16, New York 13.